I work with different people on some of the problems that we face in the programs run by Cal Recycle. And in the beverage container program, we did some work and we determined what were the main things that needed to be changed in this program to ensure that there's a fairness, that there's justice in the program to serve the participants, the businesses that get into it. The first thing that we concluded was that the whole process needs to be subjected to de novo review by a superior court judge. Now, attorneys will understand that better than I do, but it does significantly increase protections to California businesses. Secondly, Cal Recycle needs to be mandated to implement regulations that set forth guidelines in regulation pertaining to disciplinary actions. In the DMV system, if I get a ticket for running a stop sign or a sliding stop, it has a point system. And if I get a DUI, that's got a lot of points attached to it, driving under the influence, that type of thing. Cal Recycle needs to have a system where these things are scored as to their significance, their importance. It needs to go through rulemaking so that the regulated can comment on it, and it needs to be adopted because Cal Recycle's got far too much discretion in doing things that they want to do to people for little or no significance. The legislature must repeal the uncontrolled use of emergency regulations. Now, in the 2014 audit, the information I've supplied to the auditor proved that these prepayment controls were not adopted and needed to be adopted. And I know that there were discussions with the auditor and even Office of Administrative Law that they would do that. Well, that was back in 2014. Guess what? We're no closer today than we were back then. And in the meantime, people are having their rights denied. They're having prepayment controls imposed on them without authority. The certification process has evolved into using all types of methods and standards that have not been adopted. Regulation shows very simply what a recycler must submit to be certified. Yet, certification gives review to applications to enforcement, which is not authorized by the regulations, and enforcement can influence decisions. These things have to be stopped. I had one certification person explain to me that when an application went from the certification department over to enforcement for review, it went from a completed status of the application to an incomplete status. They also do this with interviews, that until they've done the interview, your application is not complete. That's not what's in the law. And these things need to be stopped. Then we have, one of the things that they're looking for is what they call straw owners, where somebody else may be the influence behind this. That's not their job. You won't find that anywhere in the regulations as being authorized. Then, under the current culture, there are no standards of competency. Recently, I found out that so-called audits are now being done not by people classified as auditors, but people classified as recycling specialists, but under the direction of an auditor. I'll tell you, that wouldn't fly in any other program. So this needs to be stopped. It's been something that's been a problem with the program since the beginning, and it's why around 90-91, Chuck Calderon submitted a bill that would require standards for competency of auditors, and investigators. So we know we need to do that to deal with this culture of incompetence. In the Act, we have a lot of record-keeping violations in statute. They've been codified in statute. They need to come out of statute and go into regulation, because even though there's a record-keeping violation, it may have no significance, and that needs to be handled in a different way and not treated as if any record-keeping violation is an act of incompetence or fraud, which they tend to or negligence. In fact, most of the time they don't know what it is, so they just lump them all in together and say it's a violation of everything. It's not. Okay. Over the years, over the decades, the department has had a real detrimental influence on the program by instigating statutory changes which significantly reduced the rights of the participants in the program, processors, recyclers, drop-off collection programs, whoever's a participant in the program. And in 2000, I think it was SB 1906 by Byron Shear, he changed the status of the participants in the program from a right to a privilege. Now, this is in conflict with the U.S. Constitution, but California ignores it because they put this in statute, so they want to believe that it's still authorized, it's still legitimate, but it's not. And the effect has been that if somebody's going to invest into coming into this program, secure property, leases, equipment, all that sort of stuff, that they've got no guarantee that it's going to be used, because the department can, with a whim, a letter, take them out of business and leave them with liabilities for which they have no way to pay for. It's detrimental for all businesses, any business, but if you're in this program, it's especially detrimental to you. These are things that shouldn't be in statute, that shouldn't be permitted, and shouldn't be allowed to filter down into regulation. CalRecycle continues to expand its control over participants using underground regulation. That's not been curtailed, and probably if you really want to deal with it, we need an audit of the program by the auditor to investigate enforcement procedures, certification procedures, the association between enforcement and certification, and DORIS. CalRecycle continues unauthorized enforcement of law and regulations outside of Public Resources Code. I've had them use an informal hearing to enforce bribery accusations. We've seen where they've enforced Department of Ag weights and measures regulations. These should be only enforced by the departments which oversee those laws and not CalRecycle. And these changes to this program would go a significant way in helping ensure that people that got into this program, who invested in this program, were protected and their investments were protected. And it was an encouragement for anybody to come in and serve state programs. Right now, far too much risk. I wouldn't go into this program. There's no way to get out of these problems quickly and easily, and that leaves anything you invest at total risk. So, some things we've come up with, changes in the program. These changes also some of these changes need to go in other programs, but that's what we'll address as far as regulatory solutions throughout the program, throughout the state. And we thank you.